Greetings, book lovers everywhere. I'm E-Train and welcome to E-Train Talks. Here at E-Train Talks, I read, review, and discuss everything books in the hopes to inspire others to love reading as much as I do. And on the topic of loving reading, I'm chatting today with the teacher librarian and promoter of Project Lit, more on that later, Elizabeth Blye. Woo! Elizabeth has been educating kids for over 18 years, and she's a huge promoter of literacy. She's also a former elementary school ELA teacher and currently a middle school librarian. I'm so thrilled and honored to be chatting with you today, Elizabeth.
E-Train, it is an honor to be chatting with you. Thank you so much for having me on. It means so much.
Well, thank you for coming. And it's even more special to talk with you today because this week happens to be Teacher Appreciation Week. Woo! I appreciate all of you teachers listening and Elizabeth Blye.
Well, thank you. It's definitely it's a great profession, and
yeah,
kids like you.
Teacher Appreciation Day evolved into a full week of celebrating all the amazing educators like Elizabeth Blye, which leads me to our first question. Elizabeth, I know that you've been an educator for over 18 years, which is incredible, just frankly incredible. Thank you so much for helping to shape so many kids' lives. Is teaching something you've always wanted to do?
Yeah, it was either that or own my own electrician company, and I'm not really good with wires, so that wasn't going to happen. But yeah, my mom says that from the time I was little, I would like teach my dolls and eventually taught my little brothers, and I think I always wanted to be a teacher. There's something special about it.
There really is, just teaching kids about new things and like kind of expanding their horizons.
Yeah.
So did somebody in your life inspire you to become an educator, a parent, teacher, or role model?
I think initially my mom. I mean, your mom is always your first teacher, right? Your parents are your first teachers. I have a lot of teachers in my family. Two of my aunts were teachers. 6 of my cousins are teachers. And I think it was that, growing up with my parents having such respect for teachers, I think it was, that made me kind of want to do it. And then being completely honest, I don't remember my teachers prior to 5th grade. I know I had some good ones. My mom talks a lot about them, but I don't personally remember them. And it was probably my middle school experience and watching what those teachers did at a time when I struggled emotionally with friendships, that really made me want to go back and do this.
Teachers are the best. They just really are. And middle school teachers are great. Middle grade teachers are because middle school is like a kind of crazy time in our lives. So when you find the right teachers, it's really just amazing.
Yeah, that is for sure. Middle school is a really interesting and ever-changing experience, I think. And I can tell you more about this, but having been in kindergarten and 5th grade for 2 years, I learned very quickly that middle school is 100% my jam. And I like this really awkward, really weird, uncomfortable time in kids' lives because they're enough of humans and they have enough knowledge, but they're still willing to learn and, are sucking information in from everywhere they can. So it's cool. You're how old?
5th grade.
You're in 5th grade, so you're just getting there.
Yeah. I think it's great to have students who are willing to learn and like just kind of, because kids can sometimes be stubborn. I know that from experience because I'm a kid and my mom says it all the time. So sometimes we can be a little challenging, but I know that with the right teacher, we can be willing to learn.
That is very true. I think it's a mix of a whole lot of factors, right? To have good relationships, but also a willingness to learn, and stubborn is definitely a factor. But it's also recognizing that middle school is a time when like everything is changing, everything. Your relationships with your parents are changing, your relationship with your teachers change, your relationships with your friends change. And it can be scary for a lot of kids.
Yeah, middle school teachers, middle grade teachers like yourself, you're kind of our pillars. You're kind of like the wind beneath our wings. Like when you have the right educator, you can just kind of flourish even when your body's changing, like the way you think is changing.
That is very true. We try. We do try. And listen, we are human too and make mistakes, and I think that's one thing that I'm very upfront about with every kid I meet is I'm fallible. Like I am not perfect. I make mistakes every day. I own them. And then I try better, try to do better the next time.
Yeah, that's always a great philosophy.
Yeah, it has to be, because if we try to act like we're perfect, we're telling big lies.
So I know that you're currently a middle school librarian as well as a library media specialist. Can you tell us about your experiences as a teacher and as a librarian?
For my whole career, I started here in fall of 2004 as a 7th grade ELA teacher. And then I did both 7th and or 8th grade either year. And then, like I said earlier, I did a short stint as a kindergarten and 5th grade stream and elementary school librarian. And then I came back to the middle school, and this is my first year as a middle school librarian, and I absolutely love this job. It feels like it was the job I was meant to have. There's obviously a lot that I don't know yet, and I'm still learning, but I get to work with all different teachers, all different kids. I miss having a roster of my own kids, but the cool part about my job is I find ways to create those rosters through different kinds of experiences. So it's nice.
Yeah, being a librarian kind of sounds like a dream job for me if I don't become an author, or if I am an author, I need a side job. Like, it just sounds so much fun to be surrounded by books like this. Like, the reading, the pages, the words, they're all in the air. It just sounds like a great environment. And teaching kids about books, that sounds just even more fun.
Yeah, you would be so good at it. It
Thank
is,
you.
I mean, it's a part of the job, right? There's the other piece of the job is teaching kids about literacy skills, digital literacy skills, and fake news and fact checking and information literacy. And now more than ever, how to use social media properly, which you are a great example of.
Thank you.
And I mean, it's a big job, right? There's a lot that goes in it, and with the right administration, which I happen to have, my principal is phenomenal. And she gives me a lot of freedom to try things. There's so much that can happen in a library. I mean, it should be the heart of any school building.
So there's one quote about libraries that I really love. It's from Starfish by Lisa Phipps. I don't know if you've read it. So, she's the first person to smile at me today, the first to make me feel wanted, understood. I blink back tears. It's unknown how many students' lives librarians have saved by welcoming loners at lunch. Can you somewhat relate to that quote?
That just kind of gave me chills. First of all, I love that book. I love Lisa Phipps. And having always been a kid who struggled with body image and my weight, that book, I read that book and I just was like, oh my God, everything about this book speaks to me. My Project Lit Kids actually just finished it yesterday. I think for me personally, I try to be that person for kids. I'm not that person for every kid. I can't have, that intimate of a relationship with 1,200 kids every day, but I try really hard to make sure that every kid knows that if they need something, I am here. I will do whatever I can to help them. And, if it's pointing them in the direction of a great book or just giving them a quiet place to sit, or I have this, I can get it for you, this like 30-second dance party button that sometimes when we're like having a really tough day, I push it, and you would think middle schoolers wouldn't just like break out and dance, but they do. And so it's just finding ways every day to make kids feel like they matter, because they do, and show them that there's someone here that genuinely does care.
And I genuinely have to clap. That's just amazing. And I really do want to see that dance party button. Well, she just got her dance party button. And now, everybody listening, it's time to dance.
30-second dance party.
And it has like all different,
Yeah.
So just like a little something. I mean, if you can't be silly, you can't work in a middle school. You gotta be able to be silly and make fun of yourself.
Can you share how you transitioned from an elementary school and middle school teacher to a middle school librarian, and what that journey's been like?
Yep. So like I said, I taught middle school ELA it was like 14 years. And our current librarian at the time was getting close to retirement age. And so one day he was like, come here, I got to talk to you. And I was like, oh, okay. And he was an older guy. He had been here for, 30 years at that point. He was like, you're going to go back to school. And I was like, what? I already have two master's degrees. I say, I'm good. I don't need to go back for another degree. He's like, nope, you're going to go back. You're going to get your librarian degree. And then you're going to go for my job. And I was like, okay, that actually sounds like a great idea. So I went to the University of Albany. I did a completely online master's program through them. And then as I was finishing up, an elementary librarian position happened to open up in my district. And so I met with my superintendent, and, he was really supportive of me making the change. And, the district helped me to move into that role. And then as he, neared his retirement, they allowed me to come back into this role. So I was lucky, right? Like I had a district that believed in me and supported me. And listen, no district is perfect.
Yeah.
No school district, nothing in life is perfect. But I do feel like I was very lucky in being supported. And the other nice piece was I moved back to middle school with the kids that I was in 5th grade with. So they came back as 6th graders. I came back as an English teacher. And then this year they're in 8th grade, and now I'm their librarian again. So it's been like a nice full circle with that group. So there were a lot of books that came out during the pandemic that unfortunately got a little bit overshadowed because we were all home, bookstores weren't open. So this one was July 2021, Better with Butter. Have you read this one?
I haven't. It sounds like a great book.
Okay.
It's
adorable.
the cover.
Yeah, so cute. I mean, I love just the title when I saw it.
Yeah.
Everything is better with butter.
That's
but
true.
This is actually dealing with an animal that kind of plays a role therapeutically for a kid, and the kid also kind of plays a role for the goat.
That book sounds like the goat.
Yeah, it is the goat for sure. So this one's by Victoria. Oh, sorry, it's a little blurry. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll send you the titles. Another one that came out was Allergic, and this one's a graphic novel. Did you read this one?
I haven't, but I like the cover as well, and I like the title.
Super cute. Definitely read this one. I'm like allergic to everything. I should have lived in a bubble as a child. So this one definitely spoke to me. I have a lot of kids that love it. Let's see what else I have. How to Find What You're Not Looking For by Vera Hirnandani. So somebody actually mentioned this last night. One of the Renegades mentioned it. This book I loved. It's from the perspective of somebody who has dual cultures and kind of how those cultures kind of intertwine and also play against each other in some ways. And you learn about the prejudice that exists in your families. And loved this one. Vera's an incredible author. Highly recommend.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, the Renegades are the Renegades of middle grade. They recently held a webinar talking about their books and their book recommendations.
I really like books that not only allow kids to see themselves, but to see others and really think about what it's like to experience things through someone else's shoes. And I know it kind of sounds, I don't know if it's like cliche, but like developing empathy and
that's really important.
That, like, we all have stuff. Every single one of us, even the kid that looks perfect, put together, has a great family, has a great home life, all of that stuff, had great grades, they've got stuff too. And everybody does. And so learning through books is definitely important. All right, so I got a couple more. Barbara D's Maybe He Just Likes You.
I love Barbara D's books.
Love. Have you read this one?
I haven't.
Okay, so this is a really good one. Really important topic, which I think some people sometimes struggle with talking to kids about consent and the idea of boundaries and relationships. I think it's super important to do that, and I'm very comfortable doing it, so I'm okay. But like, you have to kind of know your audience. So this is one 100% recommend. I mean, the girl, it feels so simple, but it's a phrase that you hear all the time, like, oh, that boy pulled your hair, maybe he likes you. Or that girl pulled your hair, maybe she likes you. That phrase has to change, right? We can't allow that to be anywhere. We have to kind of know our boundaries. Another one that came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. Have you read this one? What Lane by Tori Maldonado?
I haven't.
Okay, so highly recommend. what I love about Tori's books is he writes like a ton of action in under 130 pages. I think this one's like 126. And this is very much built off of his experiences as an educator and his own life experiences. So that's another one. Another one that I love that came out during the pandemic was Paula Chase's Keeping It Real.
I'm just learning about so many books. Also, I just have to note that this, that the meeting can only last for 40 minutes, so it might end. Just join back once, it's like if it ends.
You got it. How about this one? Have you seen this one yet? Oh, sorry, the sticker's covering it. So this is Marco Shiro's The Insiders.
Oh, I haven't heard of that. I can't believe I'm learning about so many books.
So Jarrett Lerner, do you know
Oh,
Jarrett?
yeah, I do know Jarrett Lerner.
So he has on, I'm going to blank on the name of the website, but one of the websites that Middle Grade Madness, I don't know. I'll think of it and send it to you.
Is it MG Book Village?
I think so. I think that's actually what it is. He keeps a running list of books that are coming out, so you can always kind of keep track, because every Tuesday there are new releases.
So I've checked on Twitter and I've seen so many book birthdays. First of all, Kate Foster's The Bravest Word about depression and so many important topics is out today, so that's great for her. And John Chu's novel just recently came out, as well as The Secret Diary of Mona Hassan by Salma Hussein. So, and also thank you so much for all the book recommendations. I cannot wait to read all of the amazing novels that you recommended. So my next question for you is, what is the most stressful time of the year for teachers, and how do you manage to stay vigilant and keep going?
Sadly, I think it's every day. I don't think there's one time of the year that's more stressful than others. Nick Ferroni, who's a teacher in New Jersey, there's a quote going around all over that he has said about, teaching is the only profession where you cry about other people's, or you worry about other people's children. And I think that responsibility alone is just, it's a big one, and it carries a lot of weight for me. And so it's always stressful. What do? I try to read as much as I can. I try to spend time with my family and friends. I try to get involved in as many out of school activities as I can. I try to sleep, which is not always easy. But we do the best we can. I'm not a yoga person at all. Like, that yoga would do the opposite of stress release for me. So I think everybody's got to know what their thing is. That'll help them. Yeah, what do you do?
Yeah. Oh, is that like hypothetical, or are you asking?
No, I'm curious. What do you do to relieve stress?
To relieve stress, sometimes I like to read a book. Other times I just kind of go outside and just kind of release the bad thoughts, release the stress. Although I also just sleep a lot because I get a lot of stress migraines, so I have to sleep a lot to get rid of them. And it really helps just kind of trying to find ways to get rid of stress. There are so many different ways. And like what you've said, sleep, just kind of finding your thing. I think those are really two important ways to just kind of relieve stress.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, the last, what are we, like a little over 2 years in this pandemic, probably have been two of the most stressful years that I've ever experienced being an educator. But for as much stress as there's been, the Kidlit community, I mean, as you can see from Twitter alone, has been the most supportive community that I could ever have asked to be even the slightest part of. So thank God for them and kids like you and my kids who just continue to want to stay engaged with great books, and the authors for engaging with all of us. So I think that definitely helps.
So I read that in 2021, you started Project Lit Club at your school. Can you tell us about what Project Lit is and why you decided to start the club at your school?
Sure. So Project Lit is a national grassroots movement that was started by a guy named Jared Amato. And I believe he started in 2015 or 14. I forget, but he can quote you on that. I had seen a lot of the stuff that he had done. I attended a conference where he spoke, and I was like, I want this for my kids, because what Jared does is he brings together a group of all the different advisors, the chapter leaders. We suggest books, and then the kids vote on them. And so every year there's 2 releases of new books that, are part of the Project Lit list. The authors get involved. You can reach out to other chapter leaders. And I knew I wanted that for my kids.
So I read that, now I don't know if this website is updated or not, but I read that you're the middle grade literacy consultant at Little Press Publishing. Can you tell us a little bit about what Little Press Publishing does and your role in the publishing world?
So this is also something new. Michelle McAvoy, this is her publishing company. And she had reached out to me during the pandemic and said, I'm starting a new imprint of the publishing company that's going to focus on middle grade. I'd love for you to get involved and just provide feedback. And so for the first time ever, I got to see a book well before it was an ARC.
Wow.
And provide some suggestion and some ideas to the author directly. And that was a really cool experience, and meet with the author and with Michelle and the other consultants as well.
So I know that I guess you're kind of big in the publishing world a little bit. You're seeing books before their arcs. So I do have a question about that. How long before, like, you have the idea, it's getting edited, you're revising it, how long before it actually turns into an arc, like when it's ready?
So I think with this book, it was, by the time we got it, she had already done a couple different revisions and edits. And then we got it, and it was only a few months after when the ARCs came out. And I don't know if that's different for every publishing house and different for every author. I mean, you hear some authors say that it could be 5 years, right, for a book start to finish. It could be longer, some are shorter. So I don't know that there's a hard and fast rule with publishing and the speed or process that it goes through, but it is a really, really interesting process, and there's so many hands involved in getting a book from start to finish. So that's cool.
That's so interesting, and that's so cool for you that you got to be a big part of it. Like, people listen to you, and that's kind of, I think that's kind of my dream. Like, authors, librarians, people kind of listen to your words. Like, they really just vote. They just kind of, they don't take your words for granted. So I think that's really interesting.
Well, I will tell you, people are listening to you. So you have a platform, you have a voice, and it's amazing to see how you're using your voice at such a young age. I couldn't have done what you're doing at 10. At 40, I'm still struggling to do it. So
you're doing
keep at it. And, it's a really interesting, publishing is really interesting. I mean, there's negatives and positives, right? There's definitely things that authors will tell you are really hard to deal with. And there's a lot of rejection and a lot of, feelings of failure, and award season can be such a wonderful thing, but can also be painful, right? When you see other people's books, some people are publishing a book a year now, or even
like
more
Gordon
than
Corman, that's his 100th book is coming out, which we learned about at the Renegades of MG webinar.
Yeah, I cannot believe he has 100 books, and his books are all awesome.
Yeah, they are.
If you haven't read Linked, did you read that one yet?
I have read Linked.
I love that book. I
Me
thought
too.
That was a really, really important one. So I was glad he did something that was like a little bit different from his normal, fun stuff. It had a serious undertone, but there was also a lot of fun stuff in the book too.
So if I'm ever an author, which I hope will happen, I'll be sure to check in with Little Press Publishing first.
Sweet. We would love that.
So it never ceases to amaze how much one can find on the internet. And I happen to read that you're also the appointed teacher liaison for the School Library Media Specialist of Southeastern New York. That's a lot. That's a very big title. And I just want to know what that really is, what that job really means.
So we abbreviate, it's Slim Seni, right? And it's an organization of librarians from this region of New York, because as you know, New York's pretty big. So there's the greater New York organization, and then we are a small part of it. And what I was doing prior to becoming a librarian, because I knew a lot of them, is just trying to build some partnerships between teachers and librarians so that it's not a separated field. And so we're working in partnership to try to, bring new books, create new curriculum, and just highlight all of the things that we do together and in a more cohesive way. So it's a new role for me. I'm just really getting more involved now, but it's a great organization, And it really does help in whatever you do to have people that you can trust and rely on and go to for support who are experts who've been doing it longer than you have.
Yeah, and congratulations I can't believe that you're just doing so much. Like, originally you're like, for 18 years, you're just a teacher. Now you're on Twitter, you're collaborating with so many amazing people, and you're part of so many important organizations. And I think that's just really cool and inspiring.
Thanks. It is what keeps me going, for sure.
So, of course, I can't let you go without asking what you're currently reading.
Okay, so a couple of things. One of them is a book you'll get to in a few years because it's YA, but this is Tiffany Jackson's next book that's coming out called The Weight of Blood. So I just started that one because I love everything that she has written. When you're ready for YA, 100%. Recently finished Dear Student by Ellie Schwartz. Have you seen this one? Oh my God.
I have seen it, but I haven't read it yet.
You absolutely have to read it. And I then just got Melanie Conklin's next one that's coming out called The Perfect Mistake.
Melanie Conklin is amazing. I have seen it before.
She's awesome. So I just started those yesterday, The Weight of Blood and A Perfect Mistake. So lately, time to read has been a little bit short, so I'm not plowing through as many books as I normally do, but summer is coming, which means
I'm very excited for that. Sad that
lots of summer reading.
Yeah, although like that's another year you're going to be a middle school librarian in your second year. That's pretty exciting if you stay on the job.
Yeah, I'll be here. I'm definitely coming back next year. Lots of new ideas, lots of new great books. And just want to mention there's one other. So I said a little bit about like when you see yourself at others in books, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Rudine Sims Bishop's quote about books being mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors is one that a lot of people kind of ground their work in. This book by Chris Barron, it's called The Magical Imperfect.
Oh, I've seen that before.
So good. So this was another one that came out during the pandemic. And initially I feel like maybe got overshadowed a little bit, but it's definitely gaining traction. It is a novel in verse, and I suffer from an autoimmune condition called eczema. And this was the first
I do
time.
Too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh, then you have to read this. I mean, it's not the only thing in this book. There's intergenerational relationships. There's Judaism. There's friendship. There's the San Francisco earthquake. There's baseball infused. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff, and there's multiple cultures in it. I mean, it's truly probably one of my all-time favorites. So
wow, that's high praise from a librarian.
Yes. I can remember just sitting there reading this book and getting probably about 30 pages in and emailing Chris and being like, I have no words, but thank you for writing this book. I wish this had existed when I was a kid.
Well, Chris Barron, if you're listening, that's pretty high praise from Elizabeth Blye. I can't wait to read The Magical Imperfect.
You have to.
So now it's time for the final question. The question I've received many different responses to, and the question I ask every single author. And if you've listened to my podcasts, you know that sometimes it can get a little just wow. So if you could be or meet any character in any book, who would it be and why?
Okay, so that is a really hard question, but I'm going to go. Oh, I don't know. I got to go with Ellen Starfish. It would be like meeting my teenage self and saying it's going to be okay and just be brave. And I wish I'd had that courage to stand up to people and be as strong as she was. Because I think that's a really, really hard thing to do. And I love that book for that reason. It's teaching you to just be you and be proud. Yeah. And the right people will find you.
Yeah, I honestly have to agree. First of all, Lisa Phipps is amazing. Like, she was the first person who ever read, like, the first author who ever read any of my book reviews. So I think she kind of holds a really very special place in my heart. And I would really want to be there for Ellie in the book, just cheering her on, being her pal, just being someone that she can lean on, because she really needed that throughout the book.
Mm-hmm. I think we all don't, I don't think anyone realizes how much we all need that person for, you know, in your life. And it doesn't need to be 100 people, and you don't need to be the most popular. You just need one good friend to support you and say, you've got this, be the starfish, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about middle grade books. I feel like they all do such an incredible job. And like, the hardest part of all of this, I'll be honest, is there's so many books that I'm like, I forgot that one and I forgot that one, and there's this one. And every single book has merit and value. And like I said, there's a book for every kid and a kid for every book. So if I didn't mention a book, it's not because it's not great or I forgot about it. It's just there's so many.
I'm going to start a little segment on E-Train Talks. You're the first person to ever be a part of it, Elizabeth. It's called E-Train's Recommendations. I've heard about so many great books by so many authors, and I think it's time that I recommend some books to you who may not have heard of the book or may have heard of it, but they haven't gotten the chance to read it yet. So the one I really want to talk about is Dress Coded. Dress Coded by Carrie Firestone is the story of the Fisher Middle School girls. They created a podcast protesting the cruel dress code at Fisher Middle School, and using their words, the power of the freedom of speech, they kind of create a safe environment. Well, they're trying at least to create a safe environment for so many kids to come. And I can't give away too much, but it is a really good book, and there are a lot of challenges, roadblocks that the characters face, but they face a lot of adversity, but they follow through, and you'll just have to read Dress Coded to find out what happens.
That's an awesome recommendation, and I can say I highly agree. It is a great book. My kids love it. It's definitely one of a book that's very popular, and it's a really important topic, especially considering if you look at the cover, all the different body types, right? And what fits on one. I mean, it's doesn't fit the same way on another. And so that plays in, but really that was a good first pick.
Thank you. So thank you so much for joining me today, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me.
And to all of you listening, you can find Elizabeth on Twitter at Miss Blye Reads and on her school website, linked in the description. So I just have to say, you guys are going to be blown away by what Elizabeth Blye is doing. She's just one of my favorite literacy advocates. She's been kind of advocating for me ever since that one post that I made that kind of changed everything. And so I'm just kind of very happy that I had the chance to interview her. And I know that you're going to have a blast going through her social media and her school website, learning about all the great things she's doing.